How is it going, guys? Welcome to the first video of this very long series. So this is going to be algebra review, and again, notice how I say review right here. This is a review. So we're going to go over the concepts in algebra very briefly before jumping right into pre-calculus. So I'll have a couple videos in this playlist dedicated again to just teaching the basics of algebra. I wouldn't say teaching, but going over a review. So first and foremost, let's just go over the basics, which is just linear equations. And this is going to be, we're going to see how many videos I can make off of this based on how many I think I need to explain the review. So let's jump into it. First and foremost, what exactly are linear equations? Now, when you think of a line, you think, on your XY graph, right? You have your X line and your Y line right here. So typically, you have an equation y equals mx plus b, right? I'm going to go into more depth about this eventually, but essentially, this is your equation of the line right here, right? So you have a line going up like this, for example, right? Your m is the slope of your line, and b is where it intersects an axis, basically. But when you just, say you take away y, right? You just take away. So you get 0 equals mx plus b, right? If you wanted to solve for x, that's just a very simple linear equation, right? You just be, what would that be? Negative b equals mx, and then you solve for x by dividing by m on both sides, and you get x equals negative b over m. But that's a negative right there. But yeah, again, that's just a very simple idea of like how a linear equation works. It's basically just the equation of a line. We're going to go into this form a little bit later in this series, but again, that's just a brief intro to that. So again, linear equations, essentially, you're just going to be working with one variable for the most part, which is your x in this case, right? So you have a constant a, constant b, and you can set that equal to 0. But it also could be in the form like 3x plus 2 equals 0, or 3x equals negative 2. Any of those work, but it's still in this form right here. They can be solved all using simple math manipulation. So in order to do these equations, like I said, you should be familiar with this already, but if you know how to move variables to the other side, so like if you wanted to solve for x in this formula, you would move b over to this side, so you'd have ax equals negative b, and then you'd solve for x, and x would be equal to negative b over a. So if you can manipulate stuff like that, you are golden, and you don't need to review linear equations that much. I would say the other big thing is making sure to remember parentheses. So if we have a parentheses like this, let's see, 2 plus, we'll just say 3x right here, right? 2 plus 3x. So with parentheses, you just want to make sure you know how to distribute. So that would just be 10x plus 15x squared. And this is a quadratic, but we're not going to go into quadratics just yet. So, but yeah, if you know these simple math manipulations, then you should be good to go. So what are the main steps for solving these questions? Well, you need to know PEMDAS. So when you're doing things, there's an order of operations that need to be done that basically simplify your question like pretty significantly. So simplifying in this order, parentheses, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, just makes your life easier. You could do this out of order, but I will say your answer could be very wrong, or it would just take you a while to get to the correct answer. Next, you want to make sure you separate your variables. So put whole numbers on one side that don't have any x's associated, and then put all your x's on one side, right? So then you can solve for x very easily. And then your next point is solve for the variables, which that's essentially the goal of linear equations. So let's get into our first example here. Now, again, I'm going to go through these relatively quickly just because, again, I'm assuming most of these concepts are already known. This is just a review. So right up here, all we're going to see here is, we're going to move our x's to one side, and we're going to move our, our numbers that don't have any x's to one side. So I'm going to put my x's on this side, and I'm going to put my regular numbers n over on the left side. So first, I'm going to move the x over to here. So we'll have negative 5 equals 25, 6x, and this becomes a minus 3x, right? Subtract from both sides. That becomes just plus 3x, right? And then we're going to move this 25 over to this side. So that would be negative 5 minus 25, which is negative 30, equals 3x. So we separated our variables. Now we just need to solve for x. So to do that, we just want to get x alone, so we divide by 3. and you get x equals -10. Nothing too bad, just, straightforward little algebra problem. So next up, let's do a little more complex. So we're going to keep in mind PEMDAS, right? Order of operations. So parentheses would come first in this case. So let's simplify this a little bit. So we have 2 minus, we want to assume that's a -1, and then we can distribute that across the parentheses. So -1 times 4 is -4x. -1 times 1 is -1. And that's going to be equal to, again, assume that's like a -1. Distribute. You get 3 minus 2x, and then negative times a negative is positive, +1, right? So now we have our variables very separated right now, or not separated. So let's combine like terms. So 2 minus 1 is just 1 minus 4x equals 3 plus 1 is 4, right? 4 minus 2x, and now we can separate our variables a little easier. So we'll put x's on this side, and we'll put numbers on this side. So we'll move the 2 over to here, and we'll move the 1 over to here. So we add 2. So -4 plus 2 is -2x, and that equals to, we subtract 1 from here, so that would just be 3. And then we solve for x. So divide by -2, divide by -2, and you get x equals -3/2, just like that, right? So if you have any questions with what I'm doing as well, please feel free to ask questions in the comments. So our next question that we're going to do is a little bit long and tedious, but again, I just wanted to show how important it is to understand the basic math concepts in algebra. So I'm going to rewrite this a little bit down here. So first and foremost, we want to work with what's inside these brackets first. So there should actually be a bracket right here. Work inside the brackets and then work outwards to these bigger ones. So let's just start into this. So it's 32 minus bracket 4 plus 6x minus. So we're going to multiply this 5 through, right? So this would be -5x. -5 times 4 is -20. Oops, excuse me. Just like that, right? Okay. Equals. Now we're going to distribute this 4 across like this. So that would just be 12x plus 4 times 4 is 16 minus bracket 6 times 3 and 6 times -4. 6 times 3x is 18x, and then negative, or we'll just do 6 times -4 is -24, and then plus 7 minus 4x, right? Okay, so now once those parentheses are done, now we can work with the bigger brackets. So let's simplify everything inside these big brackets next. So 32 minus, let's combine all these like terms. 4 minus 20 is -16, right? 6x minus 5x is plus x, just 1x, right? Equals, simplify the other side now, plus 16 minus, this is going to be 18x minus 4x, just 14x, right? And then -24 plus 7, so that would just be -17. You may see that I make some very simple calculations in the calculator, and that's just to make sure I get the answers correct for you guys, so I don't make simple mistakes, because I could do this mentally, but I also don't want to cause any confusion. So next, we want to get rid of these brackets. So let's distribute our negatives to the rest of these contents. So that'll be 32 plus 16, and then minus x equals 12x plus 16. Distribute the negative here. So that would be minus 14x plus 17, because we have a negative times a negative. And now this is done. Let's get our variables simplified even more. So we have 32 plus 16. That'll give us 48 minus x on the left side. And 12 minus 14 is -2x. And then 16 plus 17 should give you, I believe it's 33. Let me double check that really quick. It is 33. Yep. So plus 33. Right. So now let's separate our variables properly. So let's move our x's to here, and let's move this 33 over to this side. So we have subtract 33. So that'd be 48 minus 33, which will give us 15. So we have 15 equals, and we add an x to the other side. So that would be -2 plus x. So that would be just -x, right? And because we want to get this a positive x, we just divide by -1. and you get x equals negative 15, right? So easy enough. But again, this is just an introduction to linear equations. And in the next video, I'm actually going to do two word problems. So we're going to show basically how to format one of these problems and then solve it. So yeah, please stay tuned for the next video on linear equations. And then after that video, we're going to go into quadratics a little bit. So thank you so much for watching. And again, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, please leave it down in the comments and I will get back to it as soon as I can. If you have any requests for videos as well, please let me know and I can look back for doing that in the future. But yeah, thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you in the next videos.